How to break the stagnated GMAT score? Let's say you have given GMAT or you're giving some mock tests and you're scoring around 670, 680, 690 and you're not able to go beyond that score. Okay. See, there is one fundamental problem or the main mistake that you're committing. What happens when you give a mock test and you score, let's say 670, 680? Okay. Sit with that mock test. It's better to give a mock test of a company which give you, section wise breakup. Okay, in quant, how many questions you got right, how many you got wrong, and the further breakup of data sufficiency and problem solving. And further, they give you the topic wise breakup that, from a particular topic, how many questions you got wrong and what type of questions you got wrong. If you can get that kind of detailed analysis, that's amazing. So if you can just do a mock and you get this detailed analysis, then you take one topic. I'm just taking an example of one of my students. So a day before yesterday, she gave a mock test and she scored 700. So then I just sat and just analyzed, and she also analyzed her mock test. So when we were discussing this mock test, she said that in quant, I have problem with coordinate geometry, I have a problem with geometry, and I have problem with number system. I said, fine, so what are you planning? So she said she's going to revise the entire theory of these three topics. So I said, you don't remember the concepts of any of these? For example, don't you remember the formulas of coordinate? Don't you remember the formulas for geometry? Don't you remember the concepts of number system? So she says, I do remember, but I'm getting questions consistently wrong. Now understand, if she just revise these three topics, do you see she will see any improvement? No, because when you revise something, it's like, there's already concepts in your mind. So you're just revising, it's like just revising the same thing that is there in your mind. So to improve, you have to focus on exactly where the problem is. For example, in coordinate geometry, she was facing problem with slopes, questions on slopes. So when the question gets around, she got a 700 level question on slopes. So rather than focusing on slopes, she was focusing on the entire coordinate geometry. So if you revise the entire coordinate geometry, she will not see any improvement. But if you just focus on the slope, she can see the improvement. Now, what exactly in slope? Is it the formula? She is aware of the formula, but she doesn't know how to represent those lines and what does the slope means. Because the question was difficult and it was, about the positive and the negative slopes and at what quadrant they intersect. So it's also a deep concept of slopes. So I said, rather than just going for the slope, focus on how exactly, the slope works. Work on how it looks like. So better go to YouTube and just search videos on slopes and study it, how exactly we find slope, not with the formula, but exactly what does it mean. Because once you understand what does it mean, you can actually handle the difficult questions. Similarly, in number system, she was facing problem with cyclicity. So again, revising the entire theory of number system will not help. So she has to go for the cyclicity. And in cyclicity, because in cyclicity, normally the question is for finding the units digit. But in this paper, she got a question that what will be the last two digit of upper multiplication. So in this case, she has to understand that there are patterns for everything. So rather than, revising the entire number system, she has to focus on cyclicity and what type of questions in cyclicity. So if you just work on your weaknesses, and you have to be very specific, you can't be generalized, because when you generalize things, you will not see improvement. But if you become specific and you just focus on that area, that means you have grown. And when you work on that specific area, you will master it. Because when we have limited attention, we have limited energy. So in 1 hour, if you revise entire geometry, or if you invest that 1 hour in just doing one concept, for example, if you just invest 1 hour on slopes, she'll be better with slopes. But if she just invested 1 hour on geometry or coordinate geometry, probably she'll not see any improvement. It's more like, passing time. So when you study, always sit with yourself and evaluate, where should I focus on exactly, what am I lacking, rather than just revising the entire theory. So if you do this with every topic, whatever questions you're getting wrong, and you're asking, why am I getting it wrong? Is it because of my knowledge? If it's knowledge, which knowledge? Is it because of my approach? How am I approaching? For example, she was solving one of the questions on ratios and she was working with the variables. So I said, work with the numbers. So again, in this case, she knows the concepts, but when you work with variables, it gets complicated. But if you work with numbers, it becomes easier. So she started working with numbers. So rather than revising the concept, it was just a shift in the approach. Rather than just focusing on just revising the entire concept. So this is how you analyze everything. Okay, same goes for quant, same goes for verbal. So if you have stagnated, sit with your mock test and understand exactly where am I going wrong and be very specific. Now, if you face problem with doing this yourself, then you can work with me, because this is what I do with all my students. Because when I work with them, I just analyze everything and I just give them what exactly they need to focus on. Thank you.